Well, yeah, I'm gonna do an experience report on synthetic cannabinoids in general. The reason I'm doing it in general and not individually is because whilst I've smoked a few different synthetic cannabinoids and synthetic cannabinoid blends, I haven't smoked enough of any individual one to do them individually. So I'll do them as more of a group thing for now, unless I get the chance to take a lot more. So, yeah, I've got a relatively good amount of experience smoking synthetic cannabinoids. And I think the first time I smoked them was in Spice Gold and Spice Diamond, before all this Pandora's Box stuff, before the Cyclone, before the more recent legal high herb forms. But anyway, it was a legal high herb formulation with marshmallow leaf and a blue lily, I think, or blue lotus, is it? I believe the compound that they used for spice was JWH018. Now, I remember when I first smoked this that it was not the same as weed, but similar enough that I would smoke it as a replacement for weed. I found the effects to be slightly stronger than weed, to be honest. I was quite impressed with this herbal formula because I bought a legal high expecting, oh, this will be a pile of shit. But actually, it was fairly bloody strong. Like, was probably a little bit stronger than weed. However, the effects just weren't, in my opinion, as good. I found weed is a lot more calming than JWH018. JWH018, basically, it got me a lot more wrecked. Like, fuck, I could feel high. I felt high. I knew I was fucking high. But I wasn't monged out. I wasn't relaxed. I wasn't, feeling the cool edginess. I was just feeling edginess. I just felt like really scrambled kind of high. Like, as if you'd smoked loads of skunky and then maybe snorted a line of bloody MCAT, possibly. Or just if you haven't slept enough and you're smoking a ton of skunk and you're just in the wrong bloody place, like, yeah, the high wasn't so good. I remember it being quite a warping feeling, quite an evil, gritty feeling high. It was a good high, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it definitely did the bloody trick. But whilst it was stronger than weed, I don't think it was better. And if ever I had the option to smoke weed, or even resin, to be honest, like regular crappy hash, I would have taken the resin or the weed over the spice compound. But to say if I couldn't score weed and hash back then, which back then I was a lot younger and way less connected, then yeah, I would have bought it, and I had bought it a few times. So I can't say that it's not something that I would have done. I wouldn't do it now just because better connections, and I just wouldn't from other experiences, and I'll go on to that. So yeah, I tried that and I thought it was alright, and then many years later I discovered synthetic cannabinoids on the interwebs, and I discovered that you could buy them in pure powder form. This struck me as extremely odd. Now, I remember buying two compounds, a lot of two compounds, a lot of one compound called AM2201, and a lot of another compound called MAM2201. I remember smoking about 2 or 3 milligrams of AM2201 in a cigarette, just a regular cigarette, and yeah, the effects were immense. It was like the JWH018, but even less calming, like much heavier trip than weed, much more anxiety, much more panic. Heart rate went up like mad. This wouldn't happen on weed, and I just felt extremely scattered. But I can't lie to you, it felt fucking amazing. Like, I was so damn high. Yeah, it was incredible how high I was. But I don't know, it just didn't feel right. It was the kind of thing I smoked and I felt fucking powerful and I felt strong. I could tell I was high, it was really kicking. was kind of like an evil high, really. Like an evil version of weed, except really strong, because with weed, like, you buy a gram for a tenner or whatever it is. With this stuff, you buy a gram for 20 quid and you only need to smoke 2 milligrams of it to get the same as you would off a gram of weed. Like, fuck, the potency of it in contrast is immense, and yeah, the feeling of it is immense. Like, slows time down a lot more, just makes you feel like more on edge, more away from things. But I felt weird, like paranoias of disturbances in my heart and my blood flow. Don't know if they were paranoias or if they were real things, but I haven't really heard of that from anyone else. I trialed both of these compounds on friends of mine as well to see their feedback, and well, basically did little lab notes on them, and at a few milligrams they had similar experiences to me, quite overwhelming, but you know, they could handle it. And there were other people who took 9-10 milligrams, and they thought they were going to die. Like, their height was going crazy, they didn't know where they were. They were really, really, really high. Like, this shit is incredibly potent. But yeah, you know, a lot of people started smoking it and, you know, started enjoying it because you only need a few milligrams and such. And yeah, they gave it a go. Only problem with this stuff is the level of addiction I saw. Like, you take 2 milligrams, then you need 3. Then you take 3 milligrams, then you need 5. You take 5 milligrams, then you need 8 on your next hit. After a few days, you know, you're smoking 40 milligrams at a time and getting the same high you did when you had 2 milligrams. The speed that you build up a tolerance and the speed that you get addicted to it is crazy. Like, there ended up being people who were smoking like half a gram of this stuff a day. And then these people, because they were so used to these synthetic cannabinoids, would smoke weed and feel absolutely nothing. Like, it's absurd the amount of weed they could smoke because they'd smoke so much synthetic cannabinoids. So yeah, it was a very weird one. Massive potential for addiction. Withdrawals from addiction seemed to last a couple of weeks. Like, people got pretty violent and agitated from that. Wasn't really nice to see. It's an extremely potent thing, don't get me wrong, but it's not a good thing at all, I don't think, personally. In moderation, perhaps. And then yeah, I came across other compounds such as AB Fubinaca and AFB48, and I found them a lot more relaxing than AM2201. Again, like with the AB Fubinaca, for example, you only needed a few milligrams and you get that monged, spaced out kind of high, more mong than spaced out, but at least it wasn't as rickety with stuff like AB Fubinaca and AFB48. Or is it AKB? I think it's AKB48. So yeah, like, that was a better compound, but again, it still had the problem of you need more and more each time, and, you know, like double the dose, so you end up smoking 40 milligrams a day. Then when you've stopped having it after a few days, you just feel like you're going fucking off the wall, unsettled and such. So yeah, I don't know, it's a strange one. But anyway, from my personal experience, I would say with synthetic cannabinoids that they are good for a one-off or like as a time-to-time experience in really low doses, because this shit is potent. Like, don't overestimate yourself and smoke 100 milligrams and think you're fucking great, because you'll just end up really fucking paranoid and you'll end up calling an ambulance and thinking you're having a seizure or a heart attack. You may even have a heart attack. People don't really know what this stuff does, and I've seen people's heart rates skyrocket taking it. But yeah, like, I don't think it's very good stuff because it's just so addictive, and as I say, the dose step curve is crazy. Like, just double the need for it every time you smoke it. I think it's worth exploring maybe once or twice in your life, or maybe just to know what the experience is like. But I don't think it's worth taking all the time, just because it is so addictive and it's so fucking potent. Like, you got to imagine if it was so potent that 2 milligrams was, you know, enough to hit you to start with. Once you're smoking 40 milligrams at a time and smoking half a bloody gram a day, what is that doing to you? these are relatively unknown compounds, and yeah, they could be pretty dangerous, but you know, I could be overreacting as well. But to be honest, I have seen some pretty bad things come out of them. People got quite desperate for them, so yeah, they're very strange chemicals. I do think though there is something good to them. I do think you can have fun experiences on them. I just think there's something that you should moderate and even have other people moderate for you, because they are very addictive as synthetic cannabinoids and they are very potent. But yeah, that was my experience report on synthetic cannabinoids. Hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye.